September 20th, 2016, 11:47 p.m., 10 gigabits. 50, 200, 620 gigabits of data per second. The weapon behind it was built by a 21-year-old college student who wanted to cancel his exams. In the next 16 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how forensic investigators trace this back. Log by log, IP by IP, gaming handle by gaming handle. I'm Marius, and this is MD Cyber Forensics. Dyn managed the DNS infrastructure for half the internet. Netflix goes down, Twitter goes down, all unreachable. Simultaneously, the attack wasn't coming from a data center. It was coming from cameras, baby monitors, home routers. For the engineers in the room, the first question wasn't how do we stop it? It was, how does something like this even exist? The internet had been building this weapon for years. Nobody noticed because nobody was looking at the right devices. In the hours after the Dyn attack, security researchers started pulling apart what had actually happened. The forensic picture that emerged was unlike anything the industry had seen before. The traffic wasn't random. It was coordinated, structured, and coming from a very specific type of device. Internet of Things devices. Consumer hardware. Things with tiny processors, minimal memory, and almost no built-in security. Cameras, routers, DVRs, baby monitors. Devices that most people plug in once and never touch again. Here's what the first investigators actually found when they analyzed the attack traffic. Every infected device was sending HTTP GET requests, the same basic request your browser makes when you load a website. Except these weren't browsers, they were cameras, all sending the same request to the same target in perfectly synchronized waves. When researchers pulled the full packet captures, one pattern appeared immediately. Every single infected device was communicating back to its command server over the same port. Port 48101. Remember that port number. It becomes important later. This single data point told investigators something critical. This wasn't a chaotic attack from thousands of independent actors. This was a single coordinated weapon with a central command structure. Someone had built an army, and every soldier was reporting back to the same general. The second thing investigators confirmed, these devices hadn't been compromised through sophisticated exploits. No zero-day vulnerability. No cracked encryption, no classified tools. The malware had simply tried the most common default login credentials across millions of IP addresses simultaneously. Admin, admin, root, root, support, support. Credentials that manufacturers printed in their own documentation and shipped on every device by default. In a sample of infected devices, researchers found hundreds still running the exact factory settings from the day they were unboxed. At the time of the attack, security researchers estimated over 6 billion IoT devices were connected to the internet globally, most running default credentials, most with remote access ports wide open, most never updated after purchase. The malware didn't need to be clever. It just needed to knock on the door with the key that was already in the lock. For the forensic teams, this infection method was itself a clue. It told them something specific about whoever built this. This wasn't a nation-state with classified exploits. This was someone who understood the IoT ecosystem deeply, device behavior, default credentials, network scanning at scale, technically capable, but operating without expensive resources. The profile was already narrowing. The weapon didn't need to be sophisticated. The targets had already surrendered. Let's talk about what Mirai actually was. Not just what it did, how it was built. Mirai is malware written in C compact, efficient, designed to run on the stripped-down Linux operating systems inside IoT devices. Devices with as little as 32 megabytes of RAM. It had 3 core components. Understanding all 3 tells you exactly why it was so effective. Component 1, the scanner. Mirai's scanner ran continuously, 24 hours a day. It generated random IP addresses across billions of combinations and fired connection attempts at port 23 or port 2323. Those are telnet ports, the unsecured remote access protocol that most IoT manufacturers left open by default. If a device responded, Mirai tried its credential list. 61 username and password combinations, all default credentials, pulled directly from real manufacturer documentation. It cycled through the entire list in under 10 seconds per device. If it got in, the device was infected. If not, Mirai moved on and tried the next IP immediately. At peak operation, Mirai's scanning traffic alone was generating over 1 million login attempts per minute. Not per hour, per minute. Component 2, the loader. Once a device was compromised, Mirai's loader installed the bot payload silently. The infected device then reported back to the command and control server over port 48101 and waited for instructions. But here's what made Mirai architecturally clever. It didn't just infect devices. It killed competing malware. When Mirai landed on a device, it scanned memory for other known botnet processes and terminated them. It was securing its territory. Component 3, the attack engine. When the command came, every infected device began flooding the target simultaneously. UDP floods, TCP SYN floods, HTT GET floods. The Dyn attack used a GREIP flood combined with DNS query floods. At its peak, Mirai had infected 600,000 devices. Cameras, routers, baby monitors. The combined bandwidth of those devices exceeded the capacity of most commercial DDoS mitigation services on the planet. Nothing in the industry had been built to stop this, because nothing like this had existed before. Then paralysed did something that changed everything. He released the source code. October 1st, 2016, under the pseudonym analyst. On the Hack Forum's website, he posted the complete Mirai source code publicly for anyone to download. His stated reason: he was under investigation and wanted to create plausible deniability. If the code was everywhere, no single person could be responsible for it. That was the logic. What he actually did was hand a loaded weapon to every malicious actor on the internet. Within 48 hours, new Mirai variants were already appearing in the wild. Within weeks, a separate operator used the code to attack Liberia, taking an entire country offline by targeting a single ISP. He released the code to disappear. Instead, he lit a fire that would lead investigators directly back to him. Let's talk about what happened after that code dropped. Mirai didn't stop. It multiplied. Within 10 days of the source code release, security firm Flashpoint had identified 3 distinct new Mirai variants already in active deployment. Each one modified. New credential lists, new attack vectors, new command and control infrastructure, different operators, same weapon. October 21st, the Dyn attack. U.S. East Coast Internet disrupted for nearly 11 hours. November 2016, a Mirai variant targets Deutsche Telekom directly. 900,000 routers across Germany knocked offline simultaneously. Internet access lost for nearly 1 million households overnight. November 26, 2016, a separate operator deploys Mirai against Lone Star Cell, Liberia's largest ISP. For several hours, the entire country of Liberia loses internet access. Not a company, not a network, a nation. Taken offline by a botnet built from cameras and routers. And it kept spreading. By December 2016, researchers estimated the active Mirai botnet had grown to over 1 million infected devices globally. The code had escaped. It was no longer one weapon in one person's hands. It was an open-source attack platform, available to anyone with a server and an intention. The internet had never seen anything like this before. And the worst part, there was no simple way to stop it. Here's what made Mirai so difficult to contain. Rebooting an infected device cleared the malware completely. Mirai didn't persist through power cycles. So the fix seemed simple. Just restart your router. Restart your camera. Except within minutes of coming back online, the device would be reinfected. Because the moment it reconnected to the internet, it re-exposed the same telnet port with the same default credentials. The vulnerability was still there. The infection would always come back. Security researchers described it as trying to drain a bath with the tap still running. The only real fix was to change the default credentials or update the firmware. But manufacturers weren't pushing patches. Most of these devices had no automatic update mechanism at all. And the users, millions of ordinary people with cameras and routers in their homes, had no idea any of this was happening. Their devices had been conscripted into a global cyber army without their knowledge, without their consent. And there was nothing in the existing legal or technical framework to notify them, protect them, or remove their devices from the botnet. The attack surface was the entire consumer IoT market. Hundreds of millions of devices, never updated, never monitored, never secured. The botnet didn't survive because it was unbeatable. It survived because the infrastructure it exploited was never designed to be defended. Now, let's switch sides. The attack is over. The damage is done. Dyn is back online. The news cycle has moved on. But the question sitting on every analyst's desk is the same. Who built this, and how do you prove it? The FBI's cyber division opened a formal investigation. Private firms, Flashpoint, Palo Alto Networks, and security journalist Brian Krebs began parallel analysis independently. What followed was one of the most detailed pieces of digital forensics work in cybercrime history. Here's exactly how they did it. Step 1. Source code analysis. When Anna Senpai posted the Mirai source code to hack forums, investigators didn't just read it. They reverse engineered it. They mapped every function, every hard-coded value, every stylistic decision in how the code was written. Code, like handwriting, has a style. The way a programmer names variables, structures loops, handles error conditions, these are patterns. And patterns can be matched across samples. Investigators identified specific coding signatures in Mirai that matched earlier, less sophisticated malware samples they already had on file. malware that had targeted one specific network repeatedly, Rutgers University, the same university where Paralysed was enrolled as a student. The first thread had just been pulled. Step 2. The forum trail. Digital investigators didn't find the creators of Mirai overnight. It began with whispers in the underground digital shadows. Every post, every timestamp was a breadcrumb left behind. Investigators scoured forums where pseudonyms were the only identity people knew. They meticulously cross-referenced posting styles and timing patterns, looking for the human behind the keyboard. The patterns started to align. Section 1, the Minecraft connection. The trail led to a niche community, Minecraft hosting services. In this world, DDoS attacks were a business strategy. Investigators noticed something startling. Earlier posts on these forums by a specific user precisely matched the unique architecture and design of Mirai. It wasn't a coincidence. The code evolution was documented in plain sight, hidden within years of technical arguments and server optimization tips. Step 3. The gaming handle. A signature appeared again and again in the logs. Port 48101. It was a digital fingerprint that couldn't be erased. Forensic mapping of server registration chains revealed a complex web of shell companies. But every chain has a weak link that leads to the source. The crucial mistake was a test deployment. An early version of the botnet was registered with an email tied directly to a Minecraft hosting account. That account wasn't anonymous. It was registered under a real name, Paralysed. The ghost in the machine finally had a human face and a location. The business weapon, Mirai, wasn't just a global threat. It was a tool for dominance. It was used to knock rival Minecraft servers offline. The scale of the attacks was unprecedented, but the motive was surprisingly small scale. It was about controlling the market in a digital playground. Forensic nodes connected command servers and gaming accounts back to a single point, a student desk at Rutgers University. The trail was complete. Step 4. Physical evidence. When the digital trail ended, the physical investigation began. Federal agents moved in to secure the final proof. On the screen, the evidence was undeniable. Source code found. Access logs confirmed. Communications with co-conspirators laid bare for the world to see. The legend of Port 48101 was over. The forum trail had led from an anonymous handle to a conviction. This is the reality of digital forensics. So what actually changed after Mirai? More than most people realize. On December 8, 2017, 14 months after the Dyn attack, Paralysed, Josiah White, and Dalton Norman all pleaded guilty in federal court in Alaska. They were 21, 20, and 21 years old, respectively. They received unusually lenient sentences, in part because after their arrests, all three cooperated extensively with the FBI, helping investigators understand and dismantle other active botnets. Received 2,500 hours of community service and 6 months of home confinement. No prison time. The FBI later acknowledged their cooperation was among the most valuable ever received from convicted cybercriminals. But the legal outcome wasn't the most significant consequence. In 2018, California passed SB 327, the first IoT security law in the United States. It required every IoT device sold in California to ship with a unique default password. no more admin, no more root, no more the same key in every lock. The UK followed. The EU embedded similar requirements into its Cyber Resilience Act. Mirai rewrote the rulebook for an entire industry. Here's the forensic lesson that outlasts all of it. Mirai succeeded not because of technical brilliance. The code was functional, but not elegant. The vulnerabilities were known. The credentials were public. It succeeded because of a systemic assumption that the devices no one thinks about don't need to be secured. Attack surface is not just your network. It is every device with an IP address that touches it. Mirai didn't exploit a flaw in the internet. It exploited the assumption that convenience and security could coexist without anyone being responsible for either. Next time, WannaCry, the ransomware that paralyzed the UK's National Health Service, encrypted 80,000 devices and was stopped by a 22-year-old who registered a domain name for $10.69 on a whim. I'm Marius, and this is MD Cyber Forensics.